I would like to call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. with a roll call vote. Glenn Dion. Here. Jeanette Stewart. Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Dan Golden is absent with notice. He probably won't be coming back to the meetings until March. At this time, I would like to introduce Omar Ahern Jr., who is the Grafton County Commissioner of District 3.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming out. Great evening to be out. My name is Omar Ahern Jr., and I am the Grafton County Commissioner from District 3, of which Ashland is a part. And one thing I would like to ask is, you are all invited every week to come to the Grafton County Commissioner meetings. They're Tuesday mornings at 9 o'clock over in North Haverhill in the administration building. And we would love to have folks from all over the county come to the meeting, and we have plenty of room to host all of you. I have some things here to share with you this evening, and again, I appreciate Paul inviting me back. We have now started our budget discussions for the fiscal year 2013. And right now we're working with about a $35 million budget. And we have been advised by our executive director that we can probably, at this point in time, based upon her calculations, we're looking at about a 10 to 15% increase from her point of view. Folks, that's, if it's 10 to 15%, you're looking at $3.5 million increase in county taxes. I'm going to work hard to see that that does not happen, but I'm only one of three. What is driving the budget increases are employee wages and benefits, heating, fuel for heating the facility, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And of course, just, things are still going up in price. What I would love to have from you folks and folks all over the county is give us your ideas, give us some of your suggestions where you would like to see things. Maybe you can help us find some efficiencies, or make your voices be known if you're concerned about an increase in the taxes. Just about every week I talk about trying to reduce our expenses. Basically, I vote against any out-of-state travel where there is a good possibility that the travel is for a conference or a workshop where the information can be gleaned over the internet through Skype or webinars or things like that. Or sending 4 people from the same department to go to one workshop. I've suggested that maybe we only send one person down and that person can bring back the information. For example, last week there was a request to send 4 people from the drug court to a workshop down in Connecticut. And one of the 4 people going down was going to be paid for by a source other than county taxes, the county taxpayer. But the other 3 people going down, it was going to cost about $1,750 per person, travel, meals, etc., to attend this workshop. So the vote was 2-1 to send all 4 of them down, and yet one of them could be paid, not using taxpayer dollars. And the other thing driving the budget is the new Department of Corrections building that will be coming online in either April or May of this year. In fact, I can tell you when the open house is going to be for the new corrections facility, so you can get this on your calendar. It's going to be April, What's it, May? Oh, okay, it's going to be, if it's not in April, it's going to be in May. Yes, Sunday, May 6th, beginning at about noontime, there will be an opening or open house for the new Grafton County Department of Corrections facility. And so you're all invited to the opening ceremonies on Sunday, May 6th, up at North Haverhill. This is a 98,000 square foot facility that will be opening up to house about, well, the number of beds in the facility is 150 beds, and it's about a $35 million cost to the taxpayers. Yes, we bonded it, but the taxpayers are having to pay that money back. In fact, the second installment on the principal for paying for the new corrections facility of $800,000 will be having to come due in the fiscal year 2013 budget. $800,000. That's something brand new for that budget. And we're still paying off the nursing home additions and renovations from about 10 years ago. That bond is still being paid off. So the taxpayers have a pretty hefty burden to be paying back in terms of the bonds for the improvements. There was a question asked of the superintendent of corrections at last week's meeting as to how much it costs to house an inmate at our corrections facility in Grafton County. And right now, still in the existing facility, the superintendent of corrections said it costs about $35,000 per year to house and take care of one inmate at the facility. And that, I would assume, does not include the cost of medical care. We had an inmate come to us from the Massachusetts Burn Hospital here a couple of weeks ago, and of course his insurance has all been used up, and that's why he's being discharged out of the burn center in Massachusetts, and he's going to be going through a legal process, and Grafton County is the site of where the crime took place, and so he's being paid for by the taxpayers of Grafton County for his medical care. The county commissioners, knowing that we're going to have an existing correction facility come vacant in May or June of this year, what are we going to do with the old jail, the old existing facility, which basically is in three parts. There's the 1880s jail. There is a 1930s section, and then there is the 1986 section, the front part. And before I became a county commissioner, the desire of the Board of Commissioners at that time was to rip down the old facility, no questions asked. When I came on board, I talked about, well, is that really making the best use of county resources? So the other two commissioners agreed with me that we would put together a study committee of Grafton County citizens to look into other options of rather than just ripping down, demolishing the existing facility. And so the committee has met twice. There are a lot of good ideas out there, but of course, ideas cost money, and then money has to be approved by the delegation, and do we have the votes to do that? My only request with regard to this existing facility is that we at least look at the options and see if ripping this building down really is in the best interest of the taxpayers of Grafton County. Based upon some preliminary walkthroughs by various building contractors, they say all three buildings structurally are very sound, very, very sound. But you have things like sprinkler systems and heating and ventilation systems that are going to need a lot of work. And we've been told that just the cost to rip it down is close to $400,000, just to rip it down, demolish it and level it off. So $400,000 to rip it down. Maybe there's some other ideas. I know there's a need for homeless shelters here in Grafton County. Maybe there's some changes that could be made to the existing facility that might provide some shelter for our homeless. So we're looking for ideas. If you've got some ideas and you can find some money to help fund those ideas, let me know. Let me know. And if I don't think a decision will be made to rip down the building in June or July of this year, but I know the county delegation is concerned about maintaining the building for a long period of time, over a year, paying for the heat and so on while it lies vacant. So we need to make some pretty quick decisions. So I think after the facility is the inmates are transferred in May or June, there may be an opportunity for folks to take a tour of the existing facility, and maybe you've got some ideas on what we can do with it. I was talking a little bit when I was talking about the budget, the cost of heating and the cost of electricity. The commissioners have been looking into a biomass heating facility, a biomass project at the county complex. And we've had a design team come in and make some recommendations. I reviewed the report with some folks that have a lot of expertise in combined heating and power generation, biomass generation, and some of the information that I saw and heard was that if Grafton County could put a power generating component for this biomass heating plant, that the county could generate somewhere up to 47% of its own electrical needs at the county complex. Now we're doubling the size of this county complex with this new jail coming on board, and we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on electricity. We have to buy our electricity from the town of Woodsville or the Woodsville Water and Light. We cannot buy directly from a generator because of the way the state laws are set up. The county must buy its power from a middleman, which I believe adds some cost to it. But if we could have this combined heating and power biomass heating plant, one of the figures that was shared with me was that over 10 years, the county taxpayers would save about $20 million in electric costs if we could put a power option with the heating plant. But the other two commissioners voted not to pursue a power generation option. They're just going to go with the heating option, and that's still going to save us several, hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. We're looking and it's going to be about $3.3 million. That's the estimated cost for this biomass heating plant. The biomass that will be used as a fuel is not the whole tree chips. This is going to be just the bole wood, the tops of the trees and the branches. According to a forester that we've been consulting with, the market, there's plenty of bole chips out on the market. Whole tree chips seem to be, there's a good supply, but most of the biomass plants that have come online recently are whole tree chips. The bole wood is a little bit different, and we've been assured that we will have plenty of fuel for our needs. Plus, the county has about 720 acres of woodlands that if we needed to supplement some of that, we would have our own. We have some fuel on our own county lands that we could take advantage of. So this biomass plant, this is something that could come online as quickly as the year 2014, and the preliminary studies show that within the first year of operation, the county would see about a $22,000 positive cash flow, even with paying interest and principal and building the thing, because we would be using so much less fuel oil. There would be a tremendous savings seen even in the first year, and I consider $22,000 a pretty tremendous savings for folks. So that's one of the things we're working on, trying to reduce the cost of county government. We just completed a performance audit by Melanson and Heath, a accounting firm out of Nashua. And the performance audit had several recommendations that they've made to the county delegation. This was a $39,000 audit paid for at the request of the county delegation. And some of the areas that the performance audit made some recommendations with regard to county administration. The auditors felt that there should be more authority delegated to the executive director with regard to the overall management of the county complex. For example, the appointed department head should report directly to the executive director, whereas right now the plan of action is that the department heads report to the county commissioners. Department budget should be prepared by department heads and submitted to the executive director for review and then recommendation to the commissioners. Right now, the department heads make their budgetary recommendations to the commissioners. They want to update our county master plan. Our county master plan was the first county master plan that the county's ever had was in the year 2006. And I have a copy, but I don't know how many other copies that are out there, but they're recommending that we update our county master plan, which I think is a great idea, so we can know where we're going into the future. A little bit about, this is an issue, other post-employment benefits, OPEB. The auditor suggests that the county should consider what impact this liability will have on future operations and how the county plans to address rising health care costs, increases and decreases in retirees, and how retiree health benefits are funded. That is a major liability for Grafton County, and I believe that a big part of that is unfunded. An unfunded liability to cover the retirees' health care costs and retirement. So that's something that I'm very, very concerned about, that's an unfunded liability that the county has. And when you get down to the bottom line, when the county isn't able to generate money through the farm or the registry of deeds, the county has to go to the taxpayers. And that's a tough pill to keep having our taxpayers. Even, the economy is still not good around here. You may hear that things are good from the media, but things are still really tough here in Grafton County. Yes?
Well, will they still have the farm even though the jail won't be there?
Well, that's a very good question, Madam Chairman. The jail is still going to be there. The Department of Corrections is still going to be there. There's still, in my opinion, there's still going to be a need for inmate labor to work on the farm. The farm, in my opinion, provides a very important component to what it is that we're trying to do with the Department of Corrections. Number one, these young guys that are in the Department of Corrections, if they don't have anything to do, you know what happens when you've got young people and they don't have anything to do. They can certainly find other things to do that have Representative Preston here. He can certainly attest to a lot of the issues that the Department of Corrections. But no, I understand though that the delegation would like to do a study of the farm and to see if there are some efficiencies that can be garnered by the farm operation. But again, the farm provides, I think, an important component to the Department of Corrections mission. And I think the inmates look forward to working in the fields, in the gardens, and in the barn. One of the cost-saving things, we had a meeting about 3 weeks ago with a agricultural engineer, and about our root cellar storage capabilities at the county. And during the course of that conversation, we also had John Porter, who was a retired dairy specialist for UNH Cooperative Extension. And John was mentioning that perhaps we could reduce our heifer herd, which are the replacements for our dairy cows. We do have a registered herd of Holsteins that are producing a lot of milk. Right now, the price of milk is high. It's about $20 per hundredweight. Our budget was something like $16 or $18 per hundredweight in the budget, so we're making more on milk. But the price of milk kind of goes like this. So right now, the county is up on the high end of the curve, but who knows what it's going to be like 6 months from now or even a year from now. So John is suggesting that we reduce, studies have shown that you can reduce your heifer replacement herd by up to 25%, and it does not negatively impact the replacement ratio for your milking herd. And by reducing our heifer herd, we could reduce the number of acres that we need for silage corn and for hay, and we could take that, so we're feeding less heifers, but we could take the land that was growing silage corn and hay and use that to grow more vegetables. Right now we're growing 38 acres of vegetables. We got a request from the Department of Corrections if we're going to feed 98% of the corrections food and needs in the new facility, that would save us some money there. But we find that in addition to the 38 acres of vegetables that we're growing, we need another 10 acres. And by reducing our silage corn crop acreage and the hay acreage, we think we can find that 10 extra acres that we need to grow more crops to feed the inmates in the House of Correction. So we're trying to think of ways to be more efficient, to make better use of our farm operation. Although I know some of the members of the delegation are concerned about the dairy operation, I think some of them would like to see us discontinue the dairy operation, because that's where most of the labor is have to have hired herdsmen who know how to milk the cows rather than rely on the inmates for doing that. Oh, that was my fourth item. We talked about vegetables in the Department of Corrections, and of course we have the forest component. We have David Falkenham is the UNH Cooperative Extension Educator Forestry, used to be known as the County Forester, and he does a good job of looking after our county forest lands. If any of you have forest lands, the county forester is available to come and look at your lands with you. There's no charge for that. He can't go and do a timber cruise for you, and he can't do that, but he can certainly take a look at your forest resources and make recommendations, and that's a pretty good service. And it doesn't cost you anything if you're a Grafton County resident. Okay, one item that is really new, and it's going to be, I think, a real topic of discussion. A couple of weeks ago, Representative Gene Chandler from Bartlett over in Carroll County Way was at a meeting, and he was quoted as saying that from his point of view, the time of county government is over. He feels that the corrections mission for county government could be taken over by the state. Of course, a lot of people feel that the counties don't need to be involved in farming anymore. Right now, Grafton County is the last county in New Hampshire that has a dairy herd. Some counties are still doing other types of farming, vegetables, making hay and so on, but Grafton is the last county that's milking cows. And the nursing home component, that could be privatized and do away with the farm, have the state take over the prison system, and the nursing home can be privatized. Is that a good idea or not? I understand there's some bills in the legislature that might be putting in some study committees to look into this. I have been involved with county government in one way or another my whole life. My mom and dad, my dad was born in Plymouth, but they went to work for Sullivan County. They were the co-administrators at Sullivan County for 28 years, from April of 1956 to October of 1984. My dad was also the county jailer. I worked at the county farm, worked in the fields, and interacted with the residents in the nursing home growing up as a youngster. That's a tough call. But I think it's something that needs to be looked at, because when you've got a $35 million enterprise in Grafton County alone, I mean, that's, you got other county, you get 9 other counties in the state. That's a lot of money. If it averages out to $350 million of county government in the state of New Hampshire, that's a lot of money, and a lot of that money is coming from the taxpayers. Are we making the best use of our resources? It may be something that needs to be looked at. So stay tuned for that. Will we have county government in another 10 years? I don't know. I'm concerned about keeping a county nursing facility available for those in our county that are in need. I still believe that Grafton County can be run more efficiently. I believe that there are savings that can be achieved. It just takes a little bit of willingness to look at things differently, to think outside the box, and not to do things business as usual. And the only other thing I would ask each of you to do is, and talk to your friends and your families who live in Grafton County, go to the Grafton County website and read the commissioners' minutes of their meetings. Read the delegations' minutes of their meetings. You get a pretty good flavor of what's going on. You're not going to hear everything, although the commissioners' meetings, at my request, are now all audio taped. So if somebody wants to have a copy of our audio taped minutes, we have those. Also, I have been taking advantage of the offer from the PBCAM, the Pemmy Baker Community Access Media, to videotape our county commissioner meetings. And working with the executive director of PBCAM, Juliette Bollier, she's been really helpful in helping me, because I'm a Luddite. I don't know much about technology things, and so she's been very patient with me. And have any of you seen the county commissioner meetings? I haven't been able to coordinate my schedule with her well enough to get the camera, borrow the camera from Plymouth and bring it over to North Haverhill, set it up. I have to be the one to set it up and then bring it back to. But I've had some feedback, and some people have been very appreciative of the fact that they can see the county commissioners in action. So that's my brief talk this evening. Again, if you need my phone number to give me a call, I don't have a cell phone. My blackberries are growing in my backyard, and they're dormant this time of year. But my telephone number is 536-2224. If I'm not in, leave a message and I'll get back to you. I do have voicemail. I do check it 2-3 times a day. Tuesdays I'm not around, because pretty much tomorrow I'll be at the commissioners meeting, and we're going to actually have a farm advisory committee meeting tomorrow afternoon. There's a group of people that try to advise our farm manager on running the farm. So I don't know, Madam Chairman, whether you want me to take any questions. I know time is running, but I really appreciate the time.
We can take a couple quick ones. Are there any questions? Dave?
Yes, you mentioned there was an unfunded liability for retiree benefits. Do you know how much of an unfunded liability we're facing?
I do not have that figure right here, but it's a lot of money. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like maybe 7 figures. Now maybe 2 of those figures are after the dot, but maybe they could be before the dot too. All I know is it's a lot of money, and it's scary. It really is scary. And with what's going on with the legislature down in Concord, I know they're trying to address, the statewide retirement system. Our corrections officers, I think, Phil, are they in group 2, our corrections officers? I think they're in the same level with law enforcement. It's a real concern to me, and when I raised the question, it hadn't been a question that had really been looked at. And when I raised the question now, it's coming to the forefront. The delegation is recognizing it as an issue, and it has been recognized as an issue in the performance audit. This is the first time the county's ever had a performance audit.
A question. You and I attended a Soldier On program just recently, a presentation by Jack Downing. Has Haverhill been taken off the table for somewhere for the veterans to consider the old buildings?
Yeah, Paul, the veterans group, many months ago, took the Grafton County Department of Corrections building off. They, just for emotional reasons, just even putting the facility, a veterans shelter across from the jail, just was not something that they emotionally could deal with. But there are other people there are other homeless folks that I think, and again, historically, this is what the counties have been there for, is to provide this need for the people in the communities. You know, we have food there at the county complex, we have shelter, we even have a healthcare component, provided the federal government and the state government allows us the flexibility if somebody does need to have some health care. So we have RNs and LPNs in the nursing home. We have we're supposed to have like 2 RNs on staff at the new Department of Corrections. Anyway, it's...
Sandra?
Yes, one of the items that you had on your list was that you were going to update your master plan.
Yes.
We're in the process of updating our master plan, and at a cost of, I believe, $50,000. Do you know how much it's going to cost?
No, I don't, because the proposal or the performance audit suggested we update our master plan. There's a lot of other things. You know, the performance audit wants the county to hire a dedicated finance officer for the county because we're a $35 million operation. The performance audit says we should hire a centralized purchasing agent because of so many things that we purchase. The performance audit says we need to hire at least one more assistant county attorney because the assistant attorney's caseload is so high. Some counties in New Hampshire, the criminal caseload is not going up, but in Grafton County, I don't think the issues are coming out of Ashland. I think the issues are coming out of Lebanon and Hanover, and maybe. Then the other thing, the performance audit says we need to expand the number of personnel in our information technology department. Although right now, Brent Ruggles, who is the information technology department head, he hasn't requested any new people. There are 2 people in the department. Brent is doing a fantastic job. He's basically taking, I think we have 6 servers at the county complex. He's going to bring them all down to 1. I mean, he's an amazing guy. It's amazing what these people with these technology. It's all Greek to me, you know. But so we have a lot of things on our plate right now. Getting this new corrections facility on board. I didn't even talk to you about the water tank up there. The issues with our 1 million gallon water tank.
Next time.
We did approve putting in a valve to hopefully alleviate that problem, but that's a $170,000 fix there.
Well, Ann?
Yeah, what about, I might be wrong about the name of the Hunter School, something like for problem children?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be a good area over that area to talk to them?
Well, we'll take any ideas that people have, Ann. We will. And I know that Wayne Fortier, who's a retired state police, high up in the state police, has some thoughts on what we could do. I mean, the thoughts right now, the ideas run from putting in a cafe to a homeless shelter, and maybe doing an educational component, doing a specialized school where the youngsters can take advantage of the farm and the woodlands operations and learn, mechanics and how to learn how to take care of trucks and tractors and so on. Because there is still a need for people trained, in some of the agricultural arts. Because New Hampshire, we actually have more farms in New Hampshire today than we did 20 years ago. The farms are smaller. We don't have the dairy farms like we used to have 20 years ago, but there are definitely more farms in New Hampshire today than there were 20 years ago.
I hate to cut you off, but we have to go on to something else, so thank you ever so much for coming.
I hope, hopefully you'll let me come back again someday.
We will.
All right.
Talk about the water tank.
Okay, approval of minutes, January 16th. Glenn, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of January 16th.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. The work session of January 25th.
No, I mean, that is a public hearing.
Oh, well, maybe we should do the public hearing first.
I think they're fine.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the public hearing of January 25th.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Work session, January 25th. Do you have any corrections?
No.
Okay, I make a motion to accept the minutes of January 25th.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Old business, the engineering proposals for the fire station roof, we were talking about that at the SB2 meeting on Saturday. The three proposals, and what this is for, this is to, the cost to examine and report the condition of the fire department roof because it's been leaking and it's really bad. So we had some engineers come in and give us a price. So Fisher Engineering out of Guilford is a cost of $2,900. Plus, I'm sorry, I didn't put that in. RFS Engineering out of Laconia is a cost of $13,500. And SFC Engineering out of Auburn is a cost of $2,500 plus. And the reason for the big difference of the $13,000, of course, a lot of it is the price that they charge per hour, so there's a big difference.
We also did get 4 proposals.
Did you think I should say anything about that?
Oh, yeah, because they did provide it, but they didn't follow the requirements, so we didn't consider it.
Okay, we also received a 4th proposal from a roofing contractor. Is the name here?
Eastern Exterior.
Eastern Exterior, okay. And they didn't go by everything that we needed, and so that was the reason that we didn't accept them as one of the people to take into consideration, or one of the firms to take into consideration, is that right?
That's correct.
I guess then what we need to do, Glenn, is to vote. From what I understand, talking with Paul, the SFC Engineering, which is the lowest estimate of $2,500 plus, had a good referral and is a good engineering firm. So I guess I will make a motion to hire SFC Engineering out of Auburn at a cost of $2,500 plus.
Second.
And there's a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
So you'll write the other 200
Paul, do you have anything under old business? Glenn?
No.
I just had a couple things at the work session. We have been talking about job descriptions and goals, and I'd like to work at the work session, work on that. And also we have been talking about merit wages, so I'd like to have us work on a program or a policy so that we have a special policy in place for merit wages, so that if we want to give a merit wage, we have that policy in place. So I'd like to see us start working on that at the work session, if that's okay. Okay, under new business, healthy eating and active living grant. Paul, I believe you...
Yeah, this is a grant from Spear Memorial Hospital, and they're looking for towns in our community, particularly in the Lakes region, and it's a $10,000 grant which will be given to four communities if they're prepared. These communities are prepared to form a coalition that will look towards active lifestyles and nutritional situations and healthy living. We do not have to do anything for the grant. The paperwork and everything will be done by the people at SPEAR, but we do have to form a coalition, a committee, and we do have to follow through on this and turn around and make sure that we're on the treadmill and that we are eating salads during the summer and things like that. So I asked the Board of Selectmen whether this is something that we really want to get involved in, because it takes a lot of the legwork. It's taken away from us doing the grant. I just thought it might be something that the town would like to consider.
Is this a matching grant?
No,
I couldn't find whether it was or not in all the...
I think it's just a grant.
No, it's just a grant. We weren't chosen because we were alphabetically A for Ashland, but there is perhaps a need for obesity and things like that in our town. They turn around and said, so I don't know what yeah, it didn't make me laugh at the time. But we only have a few days to consider this because there are a number of other communities in the Lakes region that she'll talk to. The director will talk to if you don't really want to consider doing it.
Is there a certain date when you have to get back to her?
Well, she said by this Thursday.
By this Thursday.
Yeah.
Now, this 10,000, if we get it, according to this paperwork, is it to be used over a 2-year period? So it's actually a 2-year
That is correct.
grant. So
Yeah.
is it 10,000 up front and then we spend it over 2 years, or is it 5,000?
We get 10,000 we spend it over the 2-year period. The only thing I questioned was we have to get a coalition of members of the community, and we have to do this, and they will monitor it. We'll have to do a progress report on a weekly basis on how we're doing. So,
Well, they weren't talking about, like you said, about treadmills and salads, but they were talking about materials, like maybe we could put together something with the school
yes,
also.
that's correct. That's correct.
So we just have to send a letter of intent to them, is that what it is?
I just got to say that the Board of Selectmen agree that as a governing body they'd like to proceed with this. And
have you talked to anybody at the school? Because I think that's a natural tie-in.
I wanted to get your thoughts on it first.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's a good idea. So it's a consensus of the board, so you can go forward with that, Paul.
I'll talk to the school too.
Okay.
I'll address it to the community. And, okay, good, thank you.
Besides talking to the school, you might want to talk to some of the organizations too, like the Women's Club and some of that.
Okay.
Okay, the A-Star driver's education.
Yeah, Director Glight was here a minute ago and he could add a bit more to this, but I've given you...
It's right there.
Oh, there he is, yeah. Jim did receive an email from Rod Hull, and then he combined his thoughts on this piece of paper, and just want to see what you think. We do know full well that the Plymouth Regional High School has Hall as their driver's ed.
Right.
And I think Mr. Hall and Mrs. Hall have been doing this for a number of years, but this was an opportunity that Jim brought forward, and so we'd like you for your consideration. Jim, if you want to add something to this.
The gentleman that contacted me stated that the teaching organization is based out of the Midwest, fully insured, and they've been teaching 15, 20 plus years. The representative just happens to live in Plymouth, and he's the full-time driver educator up in Woodsville. He was looking to try to get one started in central New Hampshire. So this is a business opportunity, but they were looking for a facility that they could use to hold their class. It would be up to 2 hours a day, 3 days a week. And looking at possible schedules around the summer camp, this would be for during the summer. There is a way that it can be scheduled so that we do utilize the Booster Club for this purpose.
Yeah, I read this and I already talked to Paul. I mean, I'm not real excited about it. I know, having had 2 daughters already gone through the program up at the high school, which we fund through our taxes, part of the program at the high school is controlled air by the behavior. They have to sign, part of the agreement there up at the high school is they have to have, if they're a certain age, their behavior, their disciplinary record, all falls under that guideline, and I'd really hate to do something like this that would undermine, the high school.
Well, this was an outreach from the gentleman to see what feedback he would be able to get.
Yep.
So whatever feedback, I'll gladly pass it on back to you.
So that's my feeling.
I think I agree, Glenn. I think,
Okay.
the halls have been there for many years, and I think that Driver's Ed is well taken care of through the school, and I hate to see it taken away from them, any of their,
The halls are great, and I don't really care who does it, but I think it's the component of it being driven through the school.
And
it
time,
being
as you were
organized
saying,
and
time
tied
in
in.
with the
Right.
educational aspect.
Plus, their block scheduling so that they go and take the classes when their schedule allows them to take the class. And
I think he was primarily looking at summer,
yeah.
so, but I can pass on the feedback, no trouble at all.
Thank you.
Okay, tax anticipation note?
We have Linda Guyatt here this evening, our town treasurer, who is going to speak on some of the numbers. She's going to back me up on some of the numbers, Madam Chairman, that's what.
And when we were talking about it, didn't we say we probably wouldn't have to take out a tax?
Well, we weren't sure, but if you look at the 2012 estimates, you'll see April and May. April starts to taper off, and then of course May we show the deficit. And the reason is the school. And even though we were fortunate towards the end of last year to hold back, because we hadn't got the money from the River Street Bridge, we were able to hold back by talking to the treasurer of the school board. But we held back some money for a couple of weeks, and that got us over the hump. Here, I don't think we can. We have to pay the school. There's no movement, so I think in talking to Anita and talking to the treasurer, I think we're going to have to go for a 10 for about $300,000.
Why, either Paul or Linda, why is the disbursement during April, May?
Because we have some bond notes due, and
Okay, that one.
we have the highway one, and we also have water and sewer notes that go out.
Is that different than last year?
Last year, we actually got upfront money from the state for the bridge, which kind of floated us through this, although it was very, very tight. The year before that was even tighter, and after going through that for 2 years, and talking with Paul, we decided that rather than to juggle everybody, and with the cash flow chart that Anita and I worked on, that it's necessary, or...
Well, I was just looking at, in April and May, compared to 11 and 10, the disbursements are almost $250,000 higher during those 2 months than previous years. So my question is why are we spending $250,000 more during those 2 months?
Well,
Because those bonds were still paid last year and the year before.
Yeah, bonds, yes, and I think Anita gave you a chart
Yeah.
that showed you what you kind of had.
Yeah.
By the time we get done with our payroll, our taxes, our health insurance, we also, I believe, have probably a prosecutor's payment at the time, ambulance, all of this stuff,
And I agree with that, but we had all that last year too.
I know.
But, so the question still is why is there $100,000 more payout for April of this year
Well,
versus
I
last year?
think because she took the actual disbursements from last year, that's what we actually paid out.
Yeah.
But if you go down to the next month in June, you're going to see where we dispersed over $750,000 because we were holding off paying.
Right.
So I think according to her books, In actuality, we probably should have paid out the $440,000, but we didn't have it to pay. So, you know, this is what will be due that month. She's showing you in the past years what we paid during those months.
The other thing, Glenn, is we talked about tightening the budget, the belt again for the budget, and we don't want to go through another spending freeze at this particular time.
So if we do the tan, Linda,
Yes.
what are the rates that are estimate at the bank at this point? How much would it gonna cost us for the, looks like 2 months?
2 months, or what the banks are going to do is, they're going to have it come due the end of December. You can
Right.
pay it off whenever you want to pay it off.
Yeah,
I'm going to say 2, if that.
yeah,
I mean, things are low. You're going to probably have a fee to pay.
yeah.
Last time it was either $125 or $150, and you're going to have legal. And you're going to have to go through bond counsel. You don't have any choice. And that's going to be your highest item. Last time we did it, we went through bond counsel, it was $1,200. Like anything else, I'm sure the rates have gone up.
So overall, this is probably gonna cost us about $2 grand.
Give or take, yeah. You're gonna, you're not just paying bond counsel, you're gonna be paying town council also.
Yeah.
Because he will do what he can until bond counsel has to come in and verify.
Right.
So, and it will take probably about 6 to 8 weeks to obtain it.
Yep.
So the timing is, Madam Chairman, is critical. That's why we'd like you to consider this tonight, because we have to get the letters out.
Yeah. Are you gonna do like you have in previous years? Are you gonna take care of it, or is Paul gonna take care of it?
Well, between the two of us, I think we can make it work.
I know previous years when we did it, you usually did it all, and then you brought the kids here.
You know, talk to Paul about what the procedure is, and, if you want the procedure changed, I don't have any issue with it. You want to put an ad in the paper for bids or what, I mean, that's fine, it's just, before we hit April and May and really start to squeeze here,
Yeah.
the schools have been really great working with us, but
Yep.
that's at almost the end of their fiscal year, and they need that money, so,
They'll need it to close their books.
yeah.
Okay. So you want a motion to go out to bid for tan? Yeah.
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to go out to bid for tan.
Is that 300,000 over?
Yeah.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. You all set, Paul, with that? Town administrators report?
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Much of what, my report will be very quick tonight, much of what we've already discussed. The community, the deliberative session on Saturday, 17% of those who vote showed up at the meeting, so that's 17% of 455 voters, which we will normally get on March 13th, showed up at the deliberative session, which I thought was an interesting number. Another statistic, all of the 17 positions that are going to be there on March 13 on the ballot have been filled. People are running for positions, which I think is very encouraging. Just briefly, this afternoon we had our first website teach-in with Glenn Smith at 4 o'clock. Public Works Director Tim Paquette, Fire Chief Steve Heath, myself, Park and Rec Director Jim Gleick, Bob Hicks, Welfare Director, Patsy Tucker was there, Pat Kroll, the Office Assistant, Jamie Lyford from the PD, Linda Pack and Karen Wheelock from the Utilities was also in attendance. And we're going to schedule a second one in about 2 weeks. The committees and the boards will be intermittent when we do this. I won't spoil Tim Paquette's kudos here tonight, but you might have heard that residents from across the town line have been stealing our sand, and Tim has had to refill it several times. So I'm going to tell, he has a suggestion which he's going to talk to us about later on. Some meetings that we have attended. On January 23rd, there was a Lakes Region Planning Commission in Alton, which I attended and wish it had been earlier, because it was a psychologist from the university, UNH Extension was there, talking about how to hold your temper and anger at a Board of Selectmen's meeting or a Budget Committee meeting. So that was good with our session. Very good. January 25th, there was a Time Warner Cable meeting at the Plymouth Town Hall. That's moving forward very nicely. The towns of Holderness and Ashland have had to seek extensions. Ours was up on February the 4th, so we probably will have an extension through June. January the 26th, there was a roundtable discussion on welfare at the Common Man in Plymouth, attended by the chairman of the Board of Selectmen and Bob Hicks, our welfare director, and myself. Upcoming events and meeting dates. February the 8th, we have the July 4th committee at 6 o'clock at the Common Man restaurant, and Paddy Hines, the chairman, has asked for other non-committee members to be there. She wants some ideas for this year's fireworks and also for the parade. February the 9th, on this Thursday, there's a school care health presentation to the Board of Selectmen and the Utility Commissioners at 8:30 a.m. in the Booster Club. February the 16th, the auditors are in the town office to do the 2011 audited financials. February the 21st, Harold Parker from the Congressman Bass's office is coming to the town office again for his outreach program. He'll be there from 2:30 to 3:30, and he's anxious to meet with Ashland residents again to talk about what's happening in Washington, D.C. And that's it, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, department head reports. Chief Randall?
This is a monthly report from the police department for January. January, just like most of the months, we continue to be on track with the same amount of stuff going on. We are investigating the burglary at the library. It's moving forward. We should be making some arrests shortly. And with that being said, we did effect one arrest today on the burglary. There will be some more coming. And I'll just leave it at that right now. It is a felony. It will be going to Grafton County Courthouse to be prosecuted, because they do all felonies up there. Mr. Ahern talked about them needing more people at the prosecutor's office up there, and I'm here to tell you they do. We have cases that are up there that are way, way overdue, and it's because of the lack of staffing. They just can't handle the amount of influx coming in. So they do need some help there at the attorney's office. Myself, Lieutenant Marin, Sergeant Hamilton, Officer Cody attended a recertification class for operation of the intoxilizer, which is the breathalyzer at the police department. The recertification is done on a yearly basis and is required in order for us to be operators. So all the full-time police officers at the police department are intoxilizer operators. So if we effect a DWI, we can bring them back to the PD and administer the test. So nobody has to call somebody in to do it. Everybody there is certified. Officer Cody instructed a class at the Ashland Police Department on the new PBT/FST devices, which is a portable breath test or field sobriety test device that was given out by the state. This class gave all the full-time officers at the department certification to also run that test. We had sent Mr. Cody, as I said last month, to a class at Police Standards and Training to be an instructor for that device. He in turn came back and certified the rest of us in the operation of it. All of the members from the police department attended a night class at PSU put on by the Grafton County Attorney's Office on elderly abuse and sexual assaults, in an attempt to make sure that when we're doing our job that we're getting the right information for them to effectively prosecute. We send stuff up there, they send back a punch list of other things that they'd like to see. What we're trying to do is cut down on some of the punch list stuff and just making sure that we handle everything in the proper manner. The total number of incidents, arrests, warrants, and traffic citations and warnings for January was at 150, which is 9 more than we had in December. The department continues follow-up on ongoing investigations, and as always, I remind people to lock their vehicles, because vehicle break-ins are a crime of opportunity, so please lock your vehicles. It's normally not a smash and grab thing. And as always, when you see something that's wrong, please call the police department and we will respond, because we rely on the public to do a lot of our job and to be effective at our job. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Fire Chief Heath?
In January, the fire department responded to a total of 33 calls. 26 of those were medical responses. The fire activity was limited to a couple of good intent calls, smoke investigations. As the snow began to cover the ground, finally, the fire permits were no longer needed, so some people were burning in during the daytime hours, which we don't normally have, so some people were seeing the smoke. And again, made a phone call, which is a logical thing to do, and it just turned out to be controlled burns. We did cover Center Harbor Station during our first alarm fire over in that direction, and while we were there, we handled a medical emergency for them in their town. Regular department training for the month was chimney fire operations, very seasonal topic. Followed up the following week by we developed and put into action a new operating procedure for truck checks, which we're doing to stay on top of issues with the trucks and see that they're ready to go. The winter presents a pretty tough time of year. When the vehicles go out and they sit for a while, we need to check and make sure that everything's in good order when we get back into the station, put everything back in service. EMS personnel in January went up to Spear and took advantage of a program they were offering dealing with obstetrical emergencies. So all our EMS personnel went up there and did that. Our plan for this month, tomorrow night, we're doing the classroom portion of a nice rescue class that we're doing. And next Tuesday night, we'll be out somewhere in the water, ice, in our field session for that. And our EMS training this month is going to be led by Lieutenant Paramedic Bob Bousquet of our department, who is going to be doing training on trauma assessment and spinal immobilization. So, very busy training month. Also during the month, the Pemmy River Wet Team, which is the Swift Water Rescue Team, which is actually the idea originated in Ashland during the Ames Brook flood a couple of years ago. And we hold quarterly trainings, and one this month was held in Ashland in the gym, and we did rope systems, we reviewed basic knots. And of note is the fact that the Twin Rivers Wet Team, which has been in existence much longer than we have, they were the original one in the state, down in the Franklin, Tilton Northfield area, trained with us. So we're working together, the two different agencies, working on interoperability and so forth, being familiar with how each agency operates. It was very good training, well attended. We have several individuals that are currently involved in outside of the department training. We have a newly hired firefighter, Dale Larry, who is enrolled in an EMT basic class. Firefighter Eric Potter, who was hired over the summer, is nearing completion of his level 1 firefighter class. Firefighter Smith just also completed a 14-hour class on crisis intervention, crisis intervention, part of a critical incident stress program. And and on we go with more and more training. We have a number of other classes that are about to start that people will be signing up for as well. We also continue, as far as the building goes, we continue to move forward with our plans for the roof, a small problem that became a big deal. And as you heard, the select board has moved ahead. We're headed in the right direction, and we're moving toward determining what the best course of action is, and then I'm sure that we'll have everything taken care of eventually. We have experienced a problem with the heating system, which we're moving forward on correcting, and the overhead door openers, which were newly installed this fall, we were having a problem with one of them in front of the ladder truck, and it would open and then would close, but not close all the way. So that happened twice this month. The first time, the technicians from Overhead Door came over the very next day. We got it closed manually that night, but they came over. They're very good about it. And also, they happened to bring along the representative from the company that builds this door opener. And he told us that if this happened again, they would replace the whole thing. Well, it did happen again last week. They were over, true to their word, the very next day they replaced the whole thing. It's working fine. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. And again, if you have any questions or anything about anything relating to the fire department or any aspect of your fire department in the town, feel free to call, leave a message on the department number, or pass it on through the town administrator. So.
Thank you, Steve. Public Works Director, Tim Puckett.
January was a pretty busy month for us. We hauled 450 ton of sand this month alone. I was asked one day if anybody saw we had Holderness Highway Department hauling sand for us. Reason for that is one of our trucks was down. We have a good working relationship with Holderness. We swap work throughout the year. So the road agent over there was nice enough to send one of his trucks over for the day and help us haul sand. And then we got the truck back and running again and hauled additional 200 plus ton later on that month. So it's quite a bit of sand for the month, but as you know, we had a lot of ice in January. The more ice we have, the more sand we have to continually put down. We continued with our transfer station work, hauling brush, baling recyclables down there on off days, hauling that metal off. We took down the Christmas wreaths. We're working with the committee that does that for a better storage place for it. Right now they're just throwing in a pile in the community center bar on the second floor, so we're working on building a rack with those people. A little bit better storage for that. Continue to do more tree work, limbs down, limbs, overhanging roads. We assisted Patsy and Mr. Preston with the primary setup for the gym, the voting booths, tables, chairs. Now it's getting colder. You've seen frost heave signs in various places. We've put those up. Continue to deal with ice issues throughout the month. We had 12 events in January where we had to plow, sand, or salt. Pretty busy. We did haul some snow, what little we had. With the 3 guys underneath me, I didn't put this in my report, but the 3 guys under me logged over 200 hours of overtime for the month of January, which is quite a bit. Most people saw the sand shed changes down there. We had a huge problem this month with just people backing their trucks right up to the sand shed that we have for the residents. And it's a nice thing to do for everybody. Go down and get a little sand for your driveway. We had people just backing right up and just filling their pickups rail to rail. One guy was seen with a sander, a full pickup sander, backed up there, loading his sander. Tailgate sanders. One guy drove his tractor in 2 or 3 different times getting sand. Had reports of people from New Hampton, Plymouth, coming down and getting their sand there. We installed gate with the assistance from the electric department, kind of deter people from backing right up to it. It really hasn't helped a whole lot. We're still putting a lot of sand in there. We did purchase some signs, Ashland residents only, 5-gallon buckets only, no tractors or sanders, but it's still going on. Transfer station, we shipped out a load of tires. We don't get any revenue from that. It's a cost to the town. We hauled 6 ton of glass. That doesn't cost us anything. It would, if we put it in the hopper, it would cost us $385 in tonnage fees if we'd shipped that out. We shipped out some bales of aluminum cans. We received $330 approximately for those. We hauled off tin cans. I haven't got a check or an amount on that yet, but we do get paid for that tonnage. And we shipped out electronics, 6 boxes of electronics, TVs, computer parts, and we shipped out a load in December also. So that was actually quite a collection within less than a month's time of shipping out that soon again. To go back to the sand shed, there's something I think we need to do, and it's something the board, I think, is going to have to think about. A citizen came to me with the idea of possibly putting it down to the transfer station. So that way, the only people that are going to get sand are Ashland residents, because the only time you're going to be able to get it is when you're down at the transfer station. The pro is you got to be able to keep an eye on it. Only Ashland residents get it. The con is now nobody can grab it whenever they want. So, unfortunately, if you need to get it in the morning, you're only going to be able to get it on a Saturday morning. So it's something that the board will have to, I think, discuss.
And there'll be 2 days that you won't be able to get it?
It'll be only Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 12 to 4, and then Saturday 8 to 4. That's the downside to it, but it was an idea that somebody came to me with. It's not a bad idea, but it's going to have to be something to be looked into. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Park and Rec Director Jim Zoll?
Okay, the Park and Rec programs for January. Primarily during January, we have the after-school program and we have the Kids Night Out program. Kids Night Out was on January 20th. In order for the program to run, we asked that at least 8 children sign up so that we can run the program. We only had 5 students registered, so the program did not run in January. We're looking to run it for February 17th. Once again, we have a minimum of students to make the program run. It's only $10 per child, so for 3 hours of activities and games. Also in February, which I didn't have on down here, but we have the Vacation Day Camp. I just wanted to find out from the Board of Selectmen if the Vacation Day Camp is still to run the week of February vacation.
What's the cost of running it?
It's $115 a week per child, but that would mean 45 hours because we run it from 8 to 5. We need a minimum of 8 students to run it. But I wanted to get your feedback on it before, because I do have to get the advertising out for it.
Madam Chairman, that was going to be on the select board items.
If I can, I'll continue. Can you pass me on that, please? The Park and Rec Department is also doing a community sharing and learning program series. These happen during the day at the Booster Club. We have on Mondays country line dancing from 10 to 11. Tuesdays a knitting and crocheting club from 10 to 11:30. On Wednesday guitar lessons from 12 to 2. And on Thursday we have a digital photography club that meets from 10:30 to noon. These are designed as community sharing and learning. There are no instructor fees. It's a group coming in, especially with the digital photography. It's a chance to help teach others, but also learn yourself some of the aspects of digital photography. We do have a good turnout for these so far. I know we have at least one professional photographer that comes in on Thursday. But these classes, these workshops, they can change based on community interest. There was also an interest of making the country line dancing an evening class. If people would be interested, please let me know. The after-school program, the snow finally made it, and the kids have been enjoying the sledding hill. But again, keeping aware of the ice. We try not to let the kids go sliding on the ice for safety reasons. But we've also changed the program around a little bit to offer some more unique classes for the after-school program. Where on Mondays we're offering a guided class session on circus arts. So the kids still have a chance to do their homework and social time and snack, but we also have some guided, focused activities. On Mondays, we have circus arts. Tuesdays, group gameplay up in the cafeteria. Wednesdays, guitar lessons. Thursdays, we have kitchen crafts and cooking. And Fridays, we do video games. The kids look forward to Fridays. As well as at the Booster Club, the Public Works Department has been doing an excellent job keeping the walkways and the ramp clear. We had the water seize up on us twice in the bathrooms during the month of January. Nothing burst, but we were able to get them defrosted and everything operating normal. And it was during those cold snaps when we had the below zero temperatures. Otherwise, everything is going well so far.
Jim, the vacation day camp, have
Yes.
people already signed up for that?
Nope, I haven't put out the advertisement yet. I'm looking to get that out tomorrow with the kids' night out.
Now, in the past, like last year, did you have a good turnout for the vacation
We
day camp?
usually get between 8 to 12 students. If there's more than 8, then I ask the program assistant to join us. But I've run the program where we've had 5, 6 kids, where it's just close enough. But I know budget times are tight, and now with the hour changes, I just wanted to touch base to see what the Board of Selectmen would like to see.
I don't believe there's any money in that budget for that week, is there? I don't believe we put money in the budget.
Right, so,
So if we were to run that, we'd have to find
Money someplace else?
about $500 without getting an assistant in the budget first.
so without it being offset from revenue,
Can't
we
do
just,
that.
okay,
It's not how the budget works.
okay. So take a look through the budget to see if there is something, and if I cannot find it, then it doesn't run.
That would be my take.
Okay?
I don't think we have any choice.
All right? If that's...
You want to sit down with Paul and see if it's there?
Yep.
You know, you can't offset the revenue. You can't bring it in the back and take it at cost. That's not how
Okay.
the budget has to work. The money would go into the general fund, you know, and on the books would offset it.
Right,
But
but
But the
it's still
money
got
has
to
to
be
be
the
in the
entire
budget.
amount that's spent. It's still got to be the entire amount spent.
understand. I will touch base with the town administrator.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Health and
Yes.
welfare, we'll do...
Questions are
No, we'll do
after.
that during public comments and concerns. Health and welfare director?
Bob Hicks couldn't be with us this evening, but he asked me to mention there has been no activity as to the health officer's duties.
Any welfare at all?
Well, we can't talk about...
No, but I mean
No,
nothing.
no welfare issues, no.
Treasurer's report, Linda?
Right now, you have $976,610 in the bank, and after paying out the expenses on the check registers, you will have $837, $586.42, with the payouts being $139,023.43 this week.
Thank you, Linda. Select board items?
We were going to talk about the vacation day camp, so that's been taken care of. I would like you to consider this. We did speak about the Pemmy River Local Advisory Committee, and I did attend the most recent meeting up in Plymouth. The majority of the other communities send people from the planning board, which we might want to consider going forward. I did speak to the Conservation Commission, and they were going to ask Dan Stack to go, but Dan had been before and didn't want to participate. I do think we need representation from somebody in town, and for the interim, I certainly would like to go. The last meeting was in conjunction with discussions on Northern Pass coming through the river corridor. So it's rewarding, and I think we do need representation from local government, or at least citizens here in town.
How often do they have that meeting?
They're once a month. They go, yeah.
So all you need us to do is sign this? so
Yes,
that you
and
can-
I have to send it down to the chap at the DES. And, you can nominate up to 3 people in any community. So I would like to get somebody from the planning board and or Conservation Commission to perhaps a member of the community to join. The stewardship of the river is very, very important to us. Thank you, Ben. Thank you very much.
Anything else, Paul?
Mileage reimbursement you were going to talk about.
Oh, okay. Some of the mileage reimbursements, some of the employees pass theirs in like once a year or every 6 months, and Paul and I kind of discussed that the other day, and it would be easier if we could have them handed in every month, once a month, and then that way it wouldn't be, for one thing, it wouldn't be a big check. Plus it would be easier for Anita to keep the bookkeeping because a lot of them handed in by the month anyway. So, I was going to ask what your opinion was on that.
I think that's fine.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion that all mileage reimbursement be handed in monthly.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now, if they don't, what is the recourse?
Well, that's it. There is none.
Well, you have to stay on top.
You've got to stay on top of it.
Right, you're just going to have to
I mean,
make
there's
sure
only a
that
few
you
of us
remind
that-
them while you're around.
Yeah, the traffic.
They're going to have to just
Yeah.
make sure they hand it in every
Yeah.
month. Okay, public comments and concerns, Ann?
Yes, I want to ask Jim about the, on Friday nights, what if you lowered the price to $5 and got volunteers to go down instead of paying staff?
Friday night for
The kids' night out?
kids' night out.
I know I would volunteer, and I could probably get you several other people.
Well, the thing is with volunteers with the kids' programs, I do try to run background checks on volunteers working with the kids.
Right, but a lot of us have it anyhow.
But they're not always transferable from one agency to another. If you have a background check up here at the school, it's not permissible at Parks and Rec. If you have, they don't transfer.
Okay, background check is just go down to the motor vehicle, correct?
No, we have fingerprints that get taken at the town office and that get submitted in.
But it's not that hard to get if somebody wants to volunteer to work with kids, correct?
If somebody wants to volunteer to work with the Park and Rec programs, they can go ahead and they can get that done, and that would be good for a year. So, but it takes about...
Do you do yours every year? So that's what you do is you just
Mine got done with the town, and we had background checks done for all the counselors every year.
All right. So is that not feasible, or?
It can be. It can be feasible, but we're looking at, for the Kids Night Out programs, to make sure that we cover the primary expense.
Right, that's why I thought if you brought it down, instead of paying employees, if you had volunteers.
And once again, once they go through a background check.
Right, obviously. I'm not seeing
Right.
that.
Oh, no, I'm not,
I understood that.
never implying that, never am.
But I think, you gotta have Jim either way, and unless he gets above that 8 or 10 people, he's not bringing in a second person, and they already have a couple volunteers that are down there. So reducing the cost won't generate any savings, because you're still gonna have to have Jim there. You can't just turn it over to all
No,
volunteers.
I know that, but if you got 20 kids.
They've never had 20 kids.
Oh, we
Like you would.
usually the first one, the Halloween party, we usually get about 30 to 40.
But you have enough to cover it,
Yes,
right?
we do.
And they've already got volunteers that are down there.
Yes, we do.
That help out with it.
Eli?
Isn't there a cost to background check?
Yes.
So who would absorb that?
The town does.
It doesn't have to.
Unless the person's willing to do it.
It can be anywhere from 50 to 75.
Yeah.
Lee?
I would ask you as lead negotiator, Have you compared the tentative agreement against the final contract?
Why are we talking about union tonight?
Huh?
Why are we talking about union tonight?
I'm asking, did you compare? Because there's awful major changes.
With the major changes in it, then it would be the concern of the negotiation committee. They should contact me, since I was the head of the committee. They should contact me. I will contact the union. After the four of us have a meeting, we'll go back. And if there are corrections, then we'll go back to the union and we'll do the corrections.
You have said to the people that you will go back to the union to ask them to pay for part of their
Yes,
insurance.
I did, but that's the negotiating team that does it.
But in the tentative agreement, which is all initialed by the union members, that clause is not in there. Plus, the fact,
That
if you
clause
read it,
is in the main contract.
if you read any of your contracts, the current contract, the tentative, and the final contract, it all says, at no cost to the employee. All three of them say the same thing.
For what? At no cost to the employee for what?
Health insurance.
That would be correct, because it hasn't been
It
negotiated.
says, Matthew Thornton Group, at no premium cost to the employee for single, two-person, or family
That
coverage,
is correct.
at no cost. But you're telling the people you're going to go back and ask for, and
Yes, I am.
negotiate so they pay
Yes,
for part.
because we brought that up at a meeting, when we had our union meeting, we brought up the fact that eventually the selectmen would decide to have the employees pay a certain percentage. And now the negotiating team will go back and talk with the union to have them pay a certain
It
percentage.
depends upon how you look at it, because on the tentative agreement, and a lot of it says current contract, items 4, 5, and 6 under the health insurance have been deleted. Now, on the flip side of that,
Lee, we shouldn't even be talking about the union contract. This is what the negotiating team does. So the negotiating team needs to go back and talk with the union if there are corrections.
and my question to you, is this a signed contract?
Yes, it is.
Then it's a public document.
It is, but the negotiating team has to go back to make
And what I'm saying
corrections.
is, which contract is correct, the tentative or the final? Because the final contract, the union's going to have a real problem with that, because a clause has been deleted from that allows them to get straight time pay for a holiday, and if they get called in during their work hours, they get time and a half plus straight time pay. That has been deleted.
I would have to go back.
Can I, where's the union here complaining about it?
I'm sorry?
Where is the union here complaining about the contract?
The union, I have no idea.
Well, you just said the union has a problem with
Well,
it.
they will have a problem
Are
when they
you
read it.
representing the union?
No, I'm not representing the union.
Then how can you say that they would have a problem with it? They signed that contract.
Yeah?
So if they signed that contract, why would they have a problem with the contract that they signed? I'm just asking.
And back when you negotiated,
I didn't negotiate.
not this one, the previous one, the current one we're under right now,
Okay.
all the tentative agreement stuff agreed with the final contract. This does not. There's major discrepancies.
It doesn't matter.
Certainly
The
it
only
does.
No, it doesn't. The only contract that matters is the one that they signed. That is the effective contract. The
Okay.
union isn't here complaining about that contract.
And your tentative
They
agreement,
signed it, so they agreed with it.
your tentative agreement was initialed by the union members on January 11th of 2012.
Okay?
That's all right. The contract is signed by the union.
And I say, because of the major discrepancies, and there's a lot more, maybe it needs to go down to the state labor board and let them decide which one's correct.
Kendall?
Yes, I was a member of the negotiating team from the electric department. You and Danny Golden were from the town. Bob Boyle was from water sewer.
You're right.
I brought up about, this is at our four-member board without the union there, about charging them a fee for their wages, for their insurance. You said, no, I can't do that because the town employees aren't doing it. The town employees are the non-union. So there's one mistake. You said this is a signed contract. Who approved this contract?
What do you mean who approved it? You did.
No, I didn't. No, I did not. I beg your pardon. I approved the tentative agreement.
I gave it to you, and I said, I want corrections back by December 30th. And I also said it to Bob, and I said it to Danny, and you never got back to
I
me.
never got those words.
Well, I said them to you, and I said it to
No,
Bob
you
right in
didn't.
the town office.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you
And I
didn't,
said
but
it to
that's
Danny.
So your elected department didn't approve of this agreement.
Well, then you should have gotten back to me.
And I don't think the water department either approved it.
Then he should have gotten back to me.
You should have called for a meeting when you got that tentative agreement.
Well, I
But
said
you
to you, when I gave it to you, I said, let me know by December 30th and I will call a meeting. And that's exactly what happened. And you can ask Stan Golden and Bob Boyle, because that's exactly what I said to all of you.
It was January when you got the thing, so how could you get it in November? I called you when we were getting this this agreement, and you said, well, I gotta call Anne Marie Welch to see what she's doing with it. There's a mistake right there. The union wrote this contract. The town should have wrote it.
Anne Marie, and you know this, Kendall L., Anne Marie has the template. And she is the one, right at the meeting, you knew that she was going to do that. And
Correct.
you never said a word. And you never said a word.
Yes,
and
I
so
did.
she,
But it was
no, you
overlooked.
did not. Oh, it was overlooked? Well, then we didn't hear you. The tentative agreement was done, and you knew it was going to be done by Anne Marie. You knew she had the template, and you knew she had the template for the
And I
contract.
told you the town should do it.
We didn't have it. She has the template, and you knew she was going to do it. What's the town going to
Do
do?
it. But the town needs to do it. You don't get the enemy to write this thing.
All they did was send it to us, Kendall. And I gave it to you.
You haven't read it. Look at the wages that...
Look, then what we will
I'm
do
talking,
is
I'm talking.
we will have
I
a
am
meeting
talking.
and you bring it up. I am chairman of this board.
Those tentative agreements, because the wages that they wrote in the final contract did not correspond to the wages that is in the existing evergreen contract.
I will call for a meeting and we will sit down, the four of us, and then we will talk with the union. You never told me that you have disagreements. Never, not once.
You did a review of that to know it.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
I didn't see it.
A blind man could see it.
And
Paul, on the thing from Plymouth Hospital, I'm working with Patty Hines on Nut Lunch. It's a program that came up from Laconia,
Yes.
that we wanted to do lunch for.
We're familiar with that.
Right,
It was
so-
announced in the bulletin, I think, a couple of issues ago,
Oh, good,
with St. Mark's Church.
yes.
Yes, yes.
So maybe we could get on that board?
Yeah.
the Women's Club is working on that too.
Oh, good.
Sandra, did you have a question?
I did. I have a question for you, Jeanette, as chair of the negotiating committee. My foot's swollen, otherwise I'm seeing. I was looking at the papers that Lee has. In the tentative agreement, the union members initialed and signed the tentative agreement. And that's okay. Did they see the final contract before you signed it?
They signed it at the town office. Tim, Ray Dow signed it, I signed it, and Anne Marie signed it.
I meant the union members. Did they see the final contract before?
Yes, they did.
So they must have known the differences in the tentative agreement and...
I would have to go back and look at it, but Ray signed it, and Ray is the head one for the union for the town.
But the union members saw the tentative agreement
I
and
gave them it.
the final contract.
Yes.
So they know of the differences
They must. I gave it to them.
before you signed it.
I gave it to him to look at, and then he signed it.
I'm talking about the union members. Jeanette.
Yes.
I think her answer has to be probably, because she can't speak for what Ray did and what the union looked at. You know, that's why I asked if anybody was here from the union,
Right.
because nobody from the union is complaining about this.
I was just trying to get to the bottom of that. If the tentative agreement was initialed by all the union members,
It
not
was.
the members of the negotiating team, but the union members,
It was?
then they should have read the final contract
They did.
before you guys signed it,
He did.
to make sure that what was in the tentative agreement was in the contract. But what I just looked at, they look like there were differences. And the union members are saying that's all right.
Yes, Ray went through the whole contract.
The union members, not Ray.
The only union members that had to sign the tentative agreement or initial it were before paying union members. Those were the
That's why
only
it comes
ones.
back to that
And
answer I
Ray-
gave you is,
Then the union
It's-
members may not know that there's a difference.
Ray represents them,
you would
that's so I
say
would
there's a possibility, but if Ray's done his job, which I would suspect he probably did, he talked to the union members, as Tim Paquette, when he was a shop steward, would have done.
He represents the union
Because that's
members.
his job, is to represent them, so we have to assume that he did his job and he talked to his members.
All right, we shouldn't assume though on this. It's
It's
so
the union's
union's
job, it's not the town's job. We put together a contract, it's the union shop steward, that's his responsibility, or hers, responsibility to take it back to his or her members and go over with them. If that failed, that's the union's problem.
And
Knowing
I
Anne Marie,
agree. I agree.
knowing Anne Marie, I doubt if that failed.
I agree with you on that, Glenn, but if there's a difference in a monetary, values in that contract versus the tentative agreement, then that goes back on the town.
Right, so we can run the question by Ray. That's why I asked if anybody from the union's here,
Yeah.
because they're the only ones that can answer that question. You're asking Jeanette, she can't answer the question with what Ray did. I mean, really, so we're gonna have to ask Ray.
Will you be getting the other members of the negotiating team together?
Yes, I will, and we'll be having a meeting. You all set, Sandy? Bobby?
Yes, I kind of have a follow-up question with the town wanting to get, I guess you've signed for you to go ahead and get another tax anticipation note. In relation to that, I'd like to know how bad off we are, what percentage of, I'm not asking obviously names, if you know percentage of people that have paid their taxes on a timely basis, and also I'd like to know the percentage of our population that have not paid their taxes. Why are we in so much financial trouble that we have to go out for a tank?
We're not in financial trouble. We're in a cash flow. You asked me a question, let me finish the answer. We're in a cash flow issue. It's the same cash flow issue that we've had every year. And it's not the town, it's the schools. The schools require payments, and those payments are hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And taxes are only collected twice a year. I mean, typically, we're pretty good. We're better usually than 90% collecting on taxes. It's not we don't have any money, it's the cash flow issue, because the schools continue to require their money. In December, we were able to budget a little because they're beginning their year and they don't need all the money. And we were actually able to withhold a couple checks and not give them to the schools by working with the treasurers till we got taxes, and we were waiting for the $160,000 coming back from the state, who can continue to drag their feet and drag their feet and drag their feet because they have one bridge inspector to do all the... So that was $140,000 that took out of ours and we didn't get back.
They were waiting for reimbursement.
And next year, coming around the other side of the number, because they have a different fiscal year than we do.
Yes.
June ends their years. They can't withhold checks. At that point, they need all the checks in because all the teacher contracts have to be paid out. All the end of the year stuff has to be done. And they're not going to withhold contracts. And each year, if you look at our cash flow, we're within thousands of dollars of running out of money come April, May. June, when the tax bills go back out, the coffers get refilled and the money's back there. Linda and Anita are projecting that this year, because of the way that the bills are falling with the schools, we're going to hit a couple $1,000 left in the bank in April, and we're going to be in the negative in May, and then we'll be back up over $1 million in June. But to cover that 6 to 8 week period, we need cash flow.
And you're saying then that the schools, did you say the schools?
The two schools, this school and the high school. Yeah, they go July 1st to June 30th. So because they have a different sequence than we do, that throws off the cash flow issue.
And thank you for the information.
Yep.
Can we just give a good statistic to the audience? Maybe for Bobby's benefit, Tilton gets a tan every year, and it's because their cash flow is impaired, and it's 1.2 million every year. So, I mean, we're better off than a lot of our local neighbours.
I mean, we've been able to forego it for a couple of years, but it's just not going to be able to happen this year because of the cash flow.
Sandra?
Jeanette, I have a question for Glenn, because Glenn, spoke about, the tan. Last year and the year before last, I mean, because I was on the board, this cash flow that you're talking about, we didn't have a problem that year or last year. So why are we having the problem this year when the bonds and all, the school, I mean, those are pretty standard notes, and the school is pretty, that hasn't
That was the
changed.
question I asked earlier, and Linda's actually got the answer.
Oh.
We did have problems. Last year, Paul Branscombe took care of the problems. We're talking with the schools, holding back bills. We had a considerable amount of bills in May that were not paid. We held our schools off through the different treasurers within the districts. And the year before, Pat Crowell and I did it. Last year, we told Mr. Branscombe that he was the administrator, he could do it. That we were not going to go through that headache. This year, I said to Paul, do you want to do this again? And he said, not really. So we decided that perhaps the town ought to take out the tan so that we can pay what is required of us, rather than two of us sit there and say, okay, we'll put this one over here. I mean, the insurance, the retirement, the pay, we have very little flexibility. When we get down to the schools, we can work with them, but now we're in June, and last year was tuck it and go. And we finally got all the payments to both school districts by the end. But it was a tough time. So
I have one more question then.
Okay.
For Linda. For Linda, if you don't mind.
No.
Can I just add to that?
Sure, Paul wants to say something.
Sandra, I'd just like to add something to Linda's comment there. The River Street Bridge really did hurt us.
Yes.
We paid out $112,000 in engineering fees in 2009 and didn't see a penny back. That's when it all started. We had no recourse, so we were out right there and then. When you have to turn around to contractors and say, would you mind holding off for a little while and don't cash the check? This is a municipality. They're good enough to understand what's going on.
Well, I'm all set. I really am.
Oh.
I have no problem.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to ask Linda about the $300,000. Are we going to be able to pay off that tan with the money that we get in from our revenue in July and not in August have to turn around and take another tan out?
that's what the cash flow chart we did today addressed it. Hopefully, we're going to look at it a little more closely in the next month to narrow things down. We're hoping just to take it for a very short period of time to get us through the May, June issues.
Right.
And then hopefully this particular, from December to July 1st, is a longer period of time than what we go from
It's
July
an extra month
1st
than I do
to.
that, yes.
So it's a little harder.
Yeah.
And it was hashed out and everybody said,
So you're kind of looking forward to August and...
August, we'd like to
and-
get it,
okay.
hopefully. If nothing comes up, and hopefully people will pay their taxes in a time minute. Which, as Paul said and Glenn said, most of the residents of the town of Ashland are doing that, they're coming 94% of the taxes on time. Well, I kind of know.
And the cash flow analysis, Sandra, shows that we should be able to get through. It'll be tight in October. But I think if the board looks starting in September for October and do what we did is hold back some of the purchase orders like we did this year and look to maybe execute them late November, early December. I don't think the end of the year will be the problem because it's like Linda said, there's only a 5-month period there versus the 7th month on the other side.
That's what I was concerned about in July, paying off the $300,000 and then, you know, you're, or in June or whenever.
We should actually be able to do it in June.
Yeah, and then revenue in July, you know, we're starting all over again, would we have to look in?
But because it's a shorter period.
Yeah.
Okay. Cheryl?
I have a question in regards to Director Gleick, if he could come back in here.
Jim?
Jim, you want paper?
Jim, I was just wondering, the programs that are running down at the Booster Club during the day, I went onto the website today to look for those, and I couldn't find them. Can you tell me when you posted those?
I posted them on Friday night. If you take a look on the side of the website, it says a news item, community sharing.
When did they start?
We had our first run last week, and the groups and the people in the groups, they were pleased with it, and we started continuing them again.
Can you tell me what the numbers were?
We had at the country line dancing the first week, there were 5 people participating. The knitting and crocheting, I do not have the number for that. The guitar lessons, there were 5 people, and the digital photography had 6.
And,
Kendall?
Last Saturday to the little session, there were financial questions asked, and nobody at the head of the table could answer them. Could we have a financial person be at those meetings?
Be at what meeting? That's an SB2 meeting?
Yes. Deliberative session.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first year that this has occurred.
We can do that.
Okay.
I think I answered that question on Saturday. I think you asked it, somebody asked it on Saturday, and I said, yeah, somebody said something about the financial person be there, and I said, yeah, that would be. Is there anybody else? Does anybody else have any other questions?
I have just one.
Ann?
When you have a discussion between the 2 selectmen where there's not a third, if you guys don't agree on something, what happens with it?
Nothing.
Nothing.
It's just null and void?
Oh, it's brought up at another meeting.
The tie is a no.
But it can be revisited.
That's why you had 5.
Well, that doesn't make any difference. I mean, the same thing can
2
happen
against
if...
2 is still a no. If the 5th isn't here, so a tie either way is still a no.
Any other comments and concerns? Then I'll make a motion to go into non-public. Personnel. RSA 91A, 3, 2C.